Welcome to the Holistic Career Change Podcast, one-stop shop for everyone feeling stuck in their career and who are looking to identify, change, and succeed at their new fulfilling work. I'm your host, Vilma. Let's go. Hi, everyone. How the hell are you? I feel like it's been forever since I last recorded and spoke to you. I've missed you. So I've decided that episode 14 is the Holistic Career Change Podcast celebratory episode. For some bizarre reason, when I realized that it's the 14th episode, it felt like a milestone for me and a cause to celebrate. So I'm doing just that because, it's my podcast and because I can. Full transparency, as I was thinking of this episode, I ended up shedding a few tears. Again. It really felt like such a beautiful symmetry with the first episode I ever put out, where I cried a lot as recording and releasing the first episode, Baby, to the world forced me to slay a few inner demons. So not gonna lie, it was not easy. So what this episode is about is something that I wanted to share with you from my heart to yours. Because whenever I'm working on the content, whether it's a podcast or a social media post, I often ask myself, what is it that I wish someone would have told me all those years ago when I myself were feeling deeply unhappy with my life and the chosen career path? And as I started jotting down a few ideas and suggestions I would have killed to hear back then, it got me a little emotional. And it required me to really connect to that past version of myself who felt alone, misunderstood, who felt stuck in the wrong parallel universe. And I really feel so deeply for that, Vilma. And at the same time, I feel like I've made leaps and bounds where I sometimes don't even recognize my life anymore in the best possible way. And I'm not sure if you've noticed my podcast cover art. You may think that, there's really not much to it from the first glance. However, there is a reason as to why I chose to divide it into two opposite colors, if you will, black and white, into two very different sectors and parts. And while they do represent these two opposing forces, black and white, who, by the way, are considered complementary and have been used in the mythology and symbolism for eons, with, black representing the night, the shadow, the death, eternity, the mystery, and white symbolizing light and purity, cleanliness and innocence. It represents a blank slate, a fresh start. And so in my life's journey, I feel like the white chapter represents the new, the reborn version of me starting to live a life of alignment. It's a life when I finally chose to acknowledge and integrate the shadow, which in turn, in a way, allowed me to start shifting to the light or to the sunny side of the street where I like to be now, right? And that picture in the middle is kind of me connecting these two worlds. What I also find fascinating, by the way, if we really want to get technical here, white is not even considered a color. It's a shade or the light which comprises of all the hues on the visible light spectrum. So in other words, to arrive to the other side, it will require of us to integrate the whole spectrum of parts within us so we could graduate to that next level. Okay, you must be thinking, where is she going with this little color lecture and the podcast art? The reason why I'm sharing this is because I feel like this spectrum is really representative of a career change process. In spite of wherever you are on this scale between black and white, and especially if you're still on the darker side of your discovery journey, I'd like to dedicate this episode to you. I'd like to share with you what I feel hearing would have made the whole difference for me back then. What I needed to hear and believe in, and as I was in the thick of it, going through these phases of either feeling low, burnt out, and passive, or going to the other side of the spectrum and frantically, like a mad woman, looking for answers in the type A fashion, right? I first targeted the outer sources. And I think I mentioned this on the podcast before, like in a true sort of control freak fashion, I did all the psychometric tests. I visited astrologers. I consulted with psychics, not just one. There were a series of meetings, explorations, and auric field readings, and so on and so forth. I was so eager to find the answers outside until I had this one meeting, which kind of turned the whole course of my search for me around. And it was actually with a psychic medium I consulted with, and it was this American lady from LA. It was back in the day when they would have like phone conversations, so we didn't really have Zoom back then. And I had booked a soul purpose reading with her. And the process was that I had to send her several pictures of mine before the call, and she'd sort of sit with them, speak to her guides, my spirit guides. I'm not sure what her process was. And then she would relay the message to the client, or me in this case. So basically, I got on the call, and the first thing she does, she goes, "Jesus Christ, why are you here?" By the way, I'm really bad with accents. The only accent I can do is Borat accent, but that's for another time. So, she says that to me, "Why are you here?" And she really takes me by surprise. I go, "Well, I'm here because we booked a call," totally thrown off. She goes like, "No, sweetheart, I know you booked a reading, but I don't understand why you booked a reading, because you're intuitive yourself, Jesus Christ. You know all the answers. Stop looking for others to offer you the truth that you already know yourself. Stop wasting the time and money like that. And you got to get your ass off that doubt train and start building your own little practice supporting people." That call was so weird, yet so timely. I did know my truth. Not because I was special, but because my purpose and the way I was led, my whole story was very persistent. And my purpose was exactly what kept me uncomfortable in spaces and places and around people that were not meant for me. And even with that knowing, I was still riddled with fears and false truths, and I had to uninstall a huge trolley full of limiting beliefs. But all of that work was really up to me. And I wish I had someone to cheer me on my way. I didn't really. And the reason why I was crying earlier was because I connected to my past self, who was scared and doubtful and uncertain, and who felt like the world was closing in on her. And this is what I know now, believe, and live, what I'm going to share with you in a moment. But back then, I lacked this knowledge. So I hope for now that if you're feeling like you're lacking, you can listen to this episode on repeat if you have to, and borrow this belief from me. So here's what I want you to know. That's the truth. Firstly, you're allowed to not make sense to anyone, even and especially to yourself. You are allowed to have zero answers about anything in your life right now. You're even allowed to not be certain even about those things you thought you were certain about. You're allowed to feel completely and utterly lost in space without GPS. Feeling lost and like you're seeking for something that you cannot even put into words yet, it's not crazy and irresponsible. It's courageous. You have a brave heart. It's allowed to embrace and love the shit out of all those multiple sides, parts, angles, and colors of rainbow that you are. You're allowed to not fit into a mold. You're allowed to believe in ghosts and at the same time believe in science. You're allowed to be quirky, quiet, loud, obnoxious, shy, smart, uneducated, unaware, sensitive, insensitive, organized, funny, dry, messy, all at the same time. It's all part of your unique self-expression. And your unique self-expression is fucking sacred. The reason why it hurts so much when you try to put yourself into a mold is because you were never meant to fit into molds created by the construct. You don't fit because you were always meant to create your own damn mold. It's okay to feel like you're the only one who has a life that seems to be falling apart. First of all, you're not the only one. Each and every person you meet is fighting their inner silent battle, each and every single one of them, I promise. Second of all, you're not falling apart. You're falling into places. It's okay to be afraid to confide to even your closest friends and family that your life might be a failure after all, that they have been wasting their belief on you, that you feel like a failure. You're allowed to feel like that and not want to talk about it. The fact that others may not know exactly what you're going through doesn't make your story and your experience less valid or less real. It's okay that you may never want to give them all the details, ever. They may be completely oblivious to what you're going through, and that's okay. Because you might be coming to the birthday parties and you laugh and have a drink and you smile when people tell you life stories and the dreams come true, and them traveling around the world and buying the dream homes and getting promotions. Even if you feel hollow inside, you don't have to explain yourself or share the details if you don't feel like it. It doesn't make you less likable when you keep things to yourself. Those who really love you will hold space and love you anyway. No explanations, no permissions needed. Because that's what true love is. It just is, and it just does the loving. You're allowed to be in a room full of people and feel like the loneliest person on the planet. It's okay. Because that's how you're learning that it never was about the quantity of people. It's the quality of like-minded souls who see you. Just like that. They will come into your life and they will see you. All of you. You will never have to convince them of your value. These are your people. And you will never feel alone with them. It's okay to be afraid that others will judge you for your choices. They probably will. Let them judge, and you make your choices anyway. It's okay to disappoint people. It's their lesson to learn on expectations, not yours. Let them learn it. It's okay to feel like you're in the middle of a breakdown. You might be. and it's okay. And if you stop judging yourself for being here, sink into it, this breakdown will turn into the most beautiful breakthrough. Life altering, unfolding. You're not broken. You're simply finally answering to the calling of your soul. And that is what it will often feel like falling apart, so you can fall back into you with a capital Y. Final one is for me. It's okay to cry on my podcast. It's okay to be vulnerable, because that doesn't make me less of a professional. It makes me someone who genuinely cares. Because beyond all of the strategies and limiting belief work and other magic that we do, if I strip it all to the basics, this is what I believe in. We should all have the freedom to be ourselves. Even when our voice is shaking like mine is right now. If we were not given the freedom, if we were not born into it, we should do whatever it takes to claim it. We're in emotional pain when we're not allowing ourselves to live a life that makes sense to us. Not to our neighbor, not to our father, and definitely not to our second cousin. It's okay to be all of you. No accessories, no upgrades, no lies, no makeup, no wigs, no weaves, no fancy clothes, no handmade jewelry, no organic food. Just you as you are, as you wake up in the morning breath and bedhead and all. It's okay. You are beautiful, complicated, messy, human on a journey, and it's okay. I hear people often tell me, I'm just so stuck. And this is my final reminder to you today. Stuck is simply you committing to indecision. We are stuck when we think there are only two ways to go about in life, the right way and the wrong way. I say there is no right or wrong way. There's only one way, and that is your way. Reclaiming all that you are and wearing it fucking proudly. In your career, in your personal life, and most importantly, in your relationship with yourself. It's my most sincere hope that you can borrow those truths that I just shared with you and try to believe them, even if for a moment. I know they are your truths. They're universal. And it's literally the honor of my lifetime to hold these truths for you while you gain your strength, so you could hold them for yourself. Go back to this episode as much as you need to every time you feel like you need a reminder of your enoughness and of your inherent value. I'm sending you a big virtual hug right now in this moment. Can you feel it? Good. This is where I'm gonna love you and leave you and wish you an amazing week. Goodbye. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you enjoy this content, I would really appreciate it if you would rate and subscribe to my podcast. And don't forget to pass this along to anyone you know who might be considering a career change. Every little counts.